Thank you for joining us today on Earthfile. I am Ayola Kasim. For several years, coastal erosion has been a major problem in Lagos. Until recently, the Ahmadu Bello Way was a disaster zone, and Bar Beach in particular was a no-go area. Today, the Lagos state government is working on what it called the permanent solution. It is building a sea defense system as well as a city on an area reclaimed from the Atlantic Ocean. By 2016, Lagos will have a new landmark. The Eko Atlantic City. A planned city with 7 districts will be developed on land reclaimed from the Atlantic Ocean. Located on Lagos Bar Beach, the proposed development is anticipating upon completion for 100,000 residents and 250,000 commuters flowing daily to the new island. Adjacent to Victoria Island, the city planners say Eko Atlantic will rise as the next generation of property in Africa. Expected to be around 4 square miles, the city will satisfy needs for financial, commercial, residential, and tourist accommodations with a state-of-the-art high-tech infrastructure in line with modern and environmental standards. These standards will offer the city's residents modern water, waste management, security, and transportation systems. Eko Atlantic will also offer its residents an independent source of energy generated specifically for the city.
One thing for sure, we are not leaving. Part of the concession agreement we have with the Lagos state government, apart from constructing the new city or the infrastructure for the new city, we also have a responsibility to maintain all those facilities that we're going to put in place. That is power generation dedicated to Eko Atlantic, to take up water, to purify it and distribute through pumps to the tap, to put in place a sewage collection and treatment system, and also there will be a fiber optic network to distribute throughout the city for communications. All those facilities will be below ground. You will effectively have a clean, beautiful city, the equal of any major city around the world. And it will be here in Lagos.
Eko Atlantic hopes to be a powerhouse for Nigeria. The project is expected to have a positive impact on Lagos as well as Nigeria in general.
It is a new economy in the making within the Eko Atlantic City, and this will further reposition Lagos in its bid to become the leading and the preferred mega city within the continent of Africa.
Throughout the project's lifetime, thousands of jobs will be created, as well as providing business and residential districts for Nigeria. To date, about 3 million cubic meters has been sandfilled and placed in the reclamation area, while about 35,000 tons of rock has been delivered to the site. In certain parts of Bar Beach, the land being reclaimed can already be seen. Dredgers, large ships which move sand, are working around the clock, filling the area with sand where the city will be built. Testing of the sea defense system called the Great Wall of Lagos found place at the DHI Institute in Copenhagen, Denmark, where models were tested for the worst storm that possibly can happen in the area. Data analysis by computer models show that the Great Wall of Lagos will keep Lagos safe from the worst tidal surges that can be expected. When it's complete, the Great Wall of Lagos will be over 7 kilometers long. It is made from tens of thousands of concrete blocks called acropods. The acropods weigh 5 tons each, and they interlock loosely to form an effective barrier that dispels the force of the waves and provides the primary armored sea defense. Beneath the acropods are various layers of rock that function as the secondary armor and core. According to the Lagos state government, the development will also have a positive environmental impact. Its purpose is to stop the erosion of the Lagos coastline.
An engineering challenge for us to protect our land from the sea, and in doing so, create something new also out of this. A new city that represents our current outlook to life, the kind of life we want to live, the kind of city-state that we want, and also the kind of human developmental index we want to see in our people, the opportunities, a changed life, a total remake of the people and the state of Lagos.
The emergence of the city is expected to relieve the pressure on the increasing population of Lagos State, but many Lagosians are doubtful that these promises will be realized. They refer to the unexpected erosion caused by stone walls built by the British in the early 20th century to allow smooth passage to the harbour. Residents from Victoria Island, Lekki, and the new residential developments along the Lekki-Ekpe Expressway are worried about the safety of their homes, while some local communities have noticed an increase in ocean surges and coastal erosion since the sand filling and dredging activities for Eko Atlantic City began, and have lost property and have been displaced as a result. Many who have been monitoring the problems of erosion along Lagos coastal communities said that it is unfortunate that such a project will be embarked upon without proper consultation with stakeholders.
What is happening now today, especially as it touches Eko Atlantic City, is very good for Lagos, but it is not as permanent as people think. To start with, I think Eko Atlantic, the owners of Eko Atlantic City, the progenitor of that concern, is basically an investor who must shore up the investment. And what they are doing is just shoring up that investment, which in a way is good. It is showing us exactly how to begin to think about the problem of Ahmadu Bello Way and the waves and how it gets eroded. I've always believed that what we can do to solve natural problems is to provide natural solutions. Whatever solutions that would be, such that how God will do it. And what am I talking about? What they have done now has not done anything about the speed of the waves. And until we are able to attenuate the speed of the waves that arrive at our shores, we have not gotten a permanent solution yet.
So talk us through what we can really do specifically to reduce the speed of the wave.
Simple. It's going to be a cocktail of solutions. What they have done is just one solution out of many solutions that are available. What we can do, as God has designed it, is to find a model, a solution model that would replicate that model. We must break the speed offshore, like it is done everywhere. And like I mentioned, if you were there, the coastal line of Nigeria is very akin to what you have in Florida. The only thing in Miami is that it is longer. Now, if you have such problems, you have a peculiarity. The waves, because of the nature of the delta, will be stronger because it is coming at an angle. Okay, if you have a solution that is perpendicular, what you're saying is it's just going to continue to hit the perpendicular and wear it up with time, just as it has one of the natural solutions that was there. You understand? So what we need to do is to make sure that we break the speed. In engineering, we say we break speed into its components. It's horizontal and vertical speed. So when you have a solution that is not straight, that is inclined at an angle which is going to be proffered by a study of the solution of the speed of the waves that arrives at peak period and arrive at no peak period. It's a whole hydrologic study that I cannot pretend to know all the solutions right now to tell you, but we need to do something about it. We need to study. If you do not study, if you do not conduct experiments, we can't provide solutions.
What we are adopting that suits our coastline in Lagos State right now is the growing solution. But aside from that, the very first permanent solution I did for Lagos Bar Beach was not growing solution. It was the seawall solution, whereby geotextiles and rocks are put in place to kill the energy of the wave that is coming. But that will only give you a waterfront. You will not get beach. If you want a beach along with your solution, the growing solution is the preferred solution, because what that does is accrued sand and the beach then start coming back.
Projects like that should not be driven by the business community. It must be driven by common sense and the results of science.
Another fear being raised by experts is that Victoria Island and Lekki area in Lagos do not have many exit routes in case of disaster from the ocean.
If we are not very careful, all the things we are trying to do, we may end up losing a lot of the infrastructure and the natural environment that we are to protect, all of which will eventually lead to some socio-economic changes and losses, which can create some confusion among the people. The basic response of federal government, therefore, will be to try to reduce the risk. If we do not do that, which will be to adjust and to adapt properly, we may end up, because what the Eko Atlantic is saying is that we have lost land due to coastal erosion. We are trying to adapt back to make sure that that land we are able to use. But the structure we are going to put in, if care is not taken, it can even lead to more negative things rather than developing the place. And that's what is called maladaptation. You can introduce something in an attempt to adapt that can create more problem than what you are trying to adapt to. And therefore, there's a need that we must have a very good analysis of the net sea level rise risk. What are the ecological risks? What are even the political risks?
The Atlantic coast of West African countries has been exposed to erosion for a number of years. Lagos, the biggest city along the coast, experiences regular flooding in areas lying below the sea level, whilst the coastline gradually loses land to the sea. The fishing communities and residents of the new urban settlements risk losing their homes and livelihoods. In fact, some observers say many intending investors may not be aware of the inherent danger of the project because Eko Atlantic City is to sit right in the Atlantic Ocean and the water must flow no matter how hard it is being pushed, because that is its path and it must go through it no matter the number of years it will take.
The permanent solution is as permanent as the global warming. If the world temperature doesn't start to cool down, you will have coastal erosion. You will have it because the water and the melting ice will make the water rise, and whenever there's strong wind, which will cause the storm and the surge, the coastline erosion will continue. All you can do with the solutions that I'm putting forward today is to tame what we are getting from the Atlantic. And when you can tame it, people can still live happily along that coastline.
Eventually, when all the polar caps melt, if it ever happens within our lifetime, your children's, grandchildren's lifetime, it's going to be there. That's permanent protection. We can assure you of that. And this is the reason why we raised the level to 8 meters above sea level. It wasn't just a figure we plucked out of the air. We took the model test results and we actually added a further 1 meter on top of that. Not because it was an engineering requirement, but because we wanted to ensure not just the safety of residents of the Eko Atlantic, but also the comfort. Many people, when they see Atlantic surge coming towards them, they want to go and see it for themselves. It's a dramatic event after all. We wanted to ensure that those inquisitive people, even though they were visiting and viewing something very dramatic, they will be safe. And this is the reason why we raised the level by a further 1 meter.
I'm going to borrow a word of one of the biggest minds of our time, Albert Einstein. And what he said then was that the problem we have at the point we are in, the problem we have now, we cannot solve at the point we were in when we created them. You understand? So we must elevate our thinking. We must get away from the rut in which we are in. What they have done is to ensure that there is no repeat of the problems we have on Ahmadu Bello Way for the tenure of their investment. They will just do whatever investment they want to sell this property, go away. In 20 years, in 25 years, this problem will show up again. And then we have to spend about 10 times the cost that we need to spend now when there are no buildings there. Right now, there are no infrastructure, there are no utilities, there are no buildings. So we can solve the problem now in its natural state. Do not wait until it is developed before we now begin to look for solutions, because it's going to be more complex. And what we are saying is, let us take a holistic, let us approach it holistically. Let us look at the problem holistically and proffer a solution that will tend to all the problems, not one problem. Because right now what they are doing is the groin intrusions, and the groin intrusions will just break the speed just before the property. You understand what I'm saying? For a time, for a short tenure, let's look at a longer time.
What that city has done, what Eko Atlantic City has done, is to protect Victoria Island as well. Beyond Victoria Island, you have Elegushi Beach, you have Maegun Beach, you have Alpha Beach. Beyond Eko Atlantic is where we're putting this growing solution in place. And that is what is working for us right now in the state.
Driving through the one strip of road now enlarged that leads to the Eko Atlantic City, the first thing that comes to view is the ocean itself, followed by large construction machine hauling very big rock boulders into the ocean and filling them with sand. Oceanographers and marine researchers say the state has been identified as belonging to one of 25 countries in the world that are the most vulnerable to climate change, and this has become evident in rising sea levels and changing rainfall pattern in the past few years.
Things that Nigeria could do, or the government of Lagos State could do, before the sort of project which I've seen in a mock-up, just in drawings and computer simulations and all that. If they are going to go through with it and they're intent on doing it, then they must have done a feasibility study in which they think it will be profitable. But things that are financially profitable are not always environmentally sensible, and this is the concern that I have personally as a marine scientist, and I think other people in the community have as well. That here we are talking about sea level rise, what could happen to people. We've seen an upsurge in disasters on coastal zones in the last 10 years.
According to them, Lagos is characterized by lowland coastal areas and sandy beaches that have already suffered serious impact of climate change due to high tide and poor drainage of its lowland feature. They also say Nigeria needs about 50 years of data to be able to determine the level of sea rise, and the Eko Atlantic City could prove to be a disaster since it is near impossible to create artificial land right in the ocean amidst the forces of climate change, which is further worsened by construction and mining activities along the seashores.
Engineering is the basic thing they are doing, the seawall, the ground, the barrier, everything. And that's one of the dangers. I'm sorry, I don't hate engineers, but I always tell them that they don't look at issues from multidisciplinary approach. I create a barrier and it will stop it. This is the height of the wave, this is the frequency of the wave, this is the mass of the water, and this is the energy that will hit the wall. If the mass of the wall is greater than the mass that will hit the wall will stand.
Eko Atlantic City, the planners claim, will become a financial hub for Nigeria once it comes to life. It will also help solve the ever-growing population problem of Lagos State, one of the fastest growing megacities in the world. But the cloud of doubt that hangs over the viability of the city is one that has to do with the possibility of creating land in the path or home of water. Some observers say it is impossible to create a city on land in the path of water because water will have and through those houses or the settlement, and this could spell disaster to many.
We are proposing that whatever we are going to do, there must be a model that will show the predicted sea level changes in a range of scenarios, the time in series, incremental change, what are the shear events, the frequency. We must have a model that will form those changes that will take place. They must provide an understanding of the associated impacts on existing coastal systems, as well as on the infrastructure and property of the people. We must be able to have good guidelines and implications to future coastal development, which must be included in the Lagos Coastal Development Guidelines.
It's a very wide thing. You can't have a few sentences of advice. The advice I have is that make sure you study things very well. Make sure you fund research. Make sure you consult people. That's the advice I have. The people in government are educated people, better educated maybe than myself. I don't know. But the point is that there has to be consultation. It has to be participatory. It has to be brought to public debate. We live in a democracy. This is not a military regime where you have something on paper and then you just go with soldiers or with a task force and carry it out. It shouldn't be that way.
How permanent is your permanent solution?
Like I said to you, the permanent solution is as permanent as the global warming. If the world temperature doesn't start to cool down, you will have coastal erosion. You will have it because the water and the melting ice will make the water rise, and whenever there's strong wind, which will cause the storm and the surge, the coastline erosion will continue. All you can do with the solutions that I'm putting forward today is to tame what we are getting from the Atlantic. And when you can tame it, people can still live happily along that coastline.
The Lagos State government says it has spent over 38 billion naira for the restoration of its shoreline damaged by coastal erosion. However, it will require 440 billion naira to protect the state's shoreline, covering 87 kilometers. As of now, the state government says the federal government is yet to assist, despite the fact that the shoreline being ravaged by coastal erosion is the boundary of Nigeria. But while the debate about whether the Lagos state government adopted approach is the right solution or not, one thing that is certain is that human lives are at risk here. That's our package for you today. Thank you for watching. But you can still view us by visiting youtube.com/channelsweb. You can also send your comments to us by writing to earthfile@channelstv.com. Till next time, when we shall be back with you, from me, Ayola, and from the rest of the crew, thank you for watching and see you next time.